After losing my memory in a car accident, I discovered that my alpha partner not only chose to sleep apart from me, but during his vulnerable period, he took the initiative to wear a bite inhibitor, displaying a cold indifference towards me. Thus, I said to him, "Let us divorce." I realized that I still prefer the fragrant softness of an omega. Chin-chun was nearly beside himself with rage, exclaiming, "Are you toying with me? Mu-shi." He lowered his head, took my hand, and removed the bite inhibitor. "Seeing you hurt, I have endured your actions for far too long. Removing my bite inhibitor yourself is akin to when you personally put it on me in the beginning." 1. Following the car accident, I found myself bereft of memory. Upon awakening in the VIP ward of the hospital, I realized that I could recall nothing. The only information I could glean was from the doctor, who informed me that I was Mu-shi, the alpha heir of the Mu family, president of a publicly listed company, and heir to a modest fortune. The hospital had notified my family based on my records. Soon, a tall and handsome man hurried in, placing a thermos cup into my palm. "Do you feel any discomfort?" he inquired. I did not recognize this individual, yet I sensed that he must know me. Tentatively, I responded, "Hello?" He momentarily froze before apologizing. "I'm sorry. I mistook you for someone else," and awkwardly retreated, not forgetting to reclaim the thermos from my grasp. After half a minute, he reappeared at my hospital room door, checking his phone for directions. I tilted my head to scrutinize him, stating, "I am Mu-shi." When he remained silent, I added, "The doctor said I have amnesia." The man returned the thermos to me, introducing himself as Chin-chun, my husband of 3 years, a retired military officer. His voice was cool yet melodious. However, he was soon summoned by the doctor. Although I maintained a facade of calm, sipping the bird's nest soup from the thermos, I could not help but observe Chin-chun, who was conversing fluently in English with the doctor. "If I am an alpha, then my partner must be an omega. Is this truly the omega I brought home?" Despite my amnesia, I considered myself not overly demanding in a partner, desiring only a soft and fragrant omega. Yet, this omega before me seemed rather petite, perhaps not the most suitable for bearing children. Moreover, his physique appeared too robust. He seemed half a head taller than I. Could he truly be an omega? I found myself questioning whether I was bewitched by his visage, or if my family's financial difficulties had coerced my choice. As Chin-chun engaged with the doctor, he suddenly turned his head, his wolf-like icy gaze locking onto mine, sending a shiver of unease coursing through me, prompting me to avert my eyes. But then I thought, wait, I am an alpha, how could I fear my own omega? I lifted my gaze once more, feigning composure. Observing this, Chin-chun's lips curled into a slight smile before he resumed conversing with the doctor. He then entered the room, sitting beside me and stating, "The doctor said your bones are intact, just some superficial injuries from the head trauma, and you have a mild concussion. Does it still hurt?" I simply replied, "Oh, it doesn't hurt." Though my insides were churning, I bit my lip, refusing to show any sign of discomfort. After all, I am an alpha. I must exhibit the authority of a leader in the presence of what seems to be my omega, and I could not easily admit to pain. Chin-chun chuckled softly, then, with a grave demeanor, gently held one of my legs, lifting it to massage it, causing me to inhale sharply. "Still claiming it doesn't hurt? You were throwing a tantrum at home over a little pain, yet now you seem to endure it well." I frowned slightly at his nonsensical remarks. What was he babbling about? I am an alpha. Alphas are not so delicate. I struggled against the pain, attempting to withdraw my leg. Unexpectedly, Chin-chun leaned closer, soothingly blowing on my injury. "It's not hurting anymore. Good boy." I widened my eyes at his actions, my ears flushing with heat, and the anger I had felt dissipated curiously. It seemed my omega was rather attentive, which was oddly heartwarming. Yet, something felt amiss, as if my omega possessed an essence of alpha. 2. In the hospital, my omega father quickly called, "Xiaoxi, I heard you were in a car accident. Are you hurt? Is everything all right?" He was unaware of my amnesia, and I did not wish to cause him worry, so I reassured him, "I'm fine, Dad. Chin-chun is here with me." He breathed a sigh of relief. "That's good. By the way, is Chin-chun currently in that special period? Should you come home to recuperate? Last time your glands were injured." Special period? What special period? My mind whirled. Could it be his heat? I envisioned Chin-chun beneath me, and my face flushed slightly as I coughed to clear my throat. "It's fine, Dad. I'm an alpha. What's the issue with an omega nibbling on my glands? My father sounded perplexed on the other end. What omega? You... I noticed Chin-chun approaching with the thermos, swiftly terminating the call. Dad, Ah-chun is here. I must go. I then looked up at him with eager anticipation. Ah-chun, what soup is it today? Chin-chun poured the hot soup from the thermos into a bowl. Old hen soup. After pouring, he stood to wash the thermos. His tall figure, clad in a fitted trench coat, turned away from me, accentuating his athletic build. The nurse attending to my dressing caught sight of this and couldn't help but exclaim, "Young Master Mu, your partner is truly good to you." Sipping the soup, I raised my chin proudly. Of course, he is my omega. 3. The doctor confirmed that I had merely bumped my head and that I was free to recuperate at home. During dinner, the maid served a bowl of duck blood soup, intended to nourish and invigorate me. However, considering that Chin-chun might be entering his heat, I eagerly pushed the soup toward him, who was eating plain chicken breast. "You should drink this." Though surprised, Chin-chun accepted it. He stirred it slightly with a spoon. "What's wrong? Not tasty?" I nodded emphatically, deciding to tell a little white lie. "Yes, it's too fishy, you should drink it instead." He took the bowl and began to drink it down. I propped my chin in my hands, watching intently as he finished, prompting me to request another bowl from the maid. After all, he would need to bear my offspring, and he would require nourishment for that. How could I be stingy? I am not a petty alpha. I could certainly afford a few bowls of duck blood soup. That night, as Chin-chun and I lay together, I sensed he might already be in his heat. He frowned in agitation, inhaling the scent of my glands. However, he merely pressed close without taking further action. I whispered, "Are you in that period?" Chin-chun seemed either unaware or indifferent, responding only with a faint "Ah, my omega has finally entered his heat." I was so excited and happy. Would I finally be able to mark my omega? It turned out that even the tallest omega, when feeling uncomfortable and blushing, appeared utterly adorable. I couldn't help but kiss him, instinctively wanting to emit my alpha pheromones to soothe my omega. Chin-chun, feeling my proximity, wrapped himself in the cold blanket, huffing, "Don't move." His words doused me with a cold splash of water. Chin-chun, though clearly distressed, merely frowned in a manner befitting etiquette, repeatedly inhaling the scent of my gland, his tongue dampening it with fervent licks, his breaths heavy and labored, yet he refrained from exposing my gland to me, withholding the pheromones that signaled his desire. It seemed my omega was not particularly eager for my mark. Moreover, the faint trace of pheromones in the air emanating from Chin-chun did not suggest arousal. Rather, my own pheromones instinctively repelled his, possibly due to an incongruence in compatibility. A twinge of reluctance surged within me as I sank my teeth into the unguarded flesh of his neck with a playful awoo. Chin-chun's eyes shot open, his gaze, tinged with a hint of red, met mine, which was veiled by a mist of moisture. "What's wrong?" My eyes welled up as I pointed at him. It hurt my teeth. Chin-chun's fingers ventured to his nape, feeling the distinct, albeit shallow, bite marks. "Why did you bite me?" I lowered my head, a touch guilty. "You seemed uncomfortable, so I wanted to make you feel better." Suddenly, his breaths grew heavier, his large hand grasping my lower back tightly, his voice hoarse with reproach. "You can't even sleep properly." He returned me to the confines of the blanket before retreating to the bathroom. The sound of water splashing echoed for 2 hours, and I heard him move to the adjacent side room. Feeling neglected, I surreptitiously opened a forum on my device, posting a plea for help. If your omega at home is always sniffing at your gland but does not desire your mark, what could this signify? The night was rife with fervor, as many alphas, ousted by their own omega for being too aggressive, fervently debated their circumstances. My post quickly garnered attention. One of the most popular comments read, "Your omega might be frigid and showing signs of wanting to turn the tables. It is advisable to discipline them severely." Discipline? Such a gentle omega, and I still hoped for him to bear my offspring. I could not be too harsh. Hesitantly, I knocked on the door to the adjacent room, holding up a belt tentatively. May I discipline him?" Chin-chun's gaze fell, his voice gravelly and muddled. "Musha okshi. Are you taking advantage of my injury to lure me into a trap?" I was taken aback. What? Had he misunderstood something? I had no such peculiar proclivities. I hastily clarified. "Wait, I meant..." Bang! The door slammed shut right before my nose. The sound of water resumed in the bathroom. Perhaps my omega was quite resilient after all. I recuperated at home while Qin Chen, for reasons unbeknownst to me, chose to handle his heat alone. Despite not having marked me, the faintness of his pheromones left me, as an alpha, feeling rather defeated. While I sat gloomily at the dinner table, a beautiful little omega suddenly flung himself into my arms. He tilted his head back, the sweet scent of omega pheromones enveloping me, stirring a sense of longing. Little Moo, I heard you were injured in a car accident. Where are you hurt? Let me see. Qin Chen's dark eyes instantly darkened. Lin Yu, get down, he is injured. Lin Yu merely squirmed in my embrace. Little Moo, look at him. He doesn't care about you at all. I can't fathom why you married such a frigid alpha. Is it because I'm not enough of a catch, or my waist isn't slim enough? Or my words aren't alluring enough? Lin Yu's words hung in the air, but my mind went blank, fixating solely on the phrase married an alpha. I finally understood why I instinctively repelled Qin Chen. Even now, with his alpha pheromones faintly lingering in the air, I found myself instinctively rejecting such a scent. Feeling invaded and affronted, Qin Chen swiftly grasped Lin Yu by the collar. Move again, and I will throw you out. Lin Yu bit his lip in frustration. Qin, Little Moo has amnesia. We're starting from the same line. You cannot obstruct my pursuit of Little Moo. He attempted to leap back into my embrace but failed, growing even more irate and threatening to report Qin Chen. Little Moo, look at him. What's wrong with you? Lin Yu noticed my silence, burying his head in the pristine blanket, his tone shifting in fear. Qin Chen, too, appeared flustered. Xiao Shi, did you hurt your wound just now? I merely lowered my gaze. Qin Chen crouched down to inspect me. I finally raised my tear-streaked face to meet his. Why aren't you an omega? Qin Chen? I continued to gaze up at him, tears welling in my eyes, demanding answers. Why isn't your backside ample enough? Why isn't your waist curvaceous enough? Why aren't your words alluring enough? Why can't you give me children? Qin Chen, The world had come crashing down. My once sweet and delicate omega had transformed into an alpha larger than myself. I decided to hide away in the office for 2 consecutive days. Lin Yu kept me company, conversing with me. Little Moo, I warned you long ago. A double pairing yields no results. All alphas are the same, devoid of compassion for us omegas. I merely sat there, dejectedly lowering my head, struggling to accept the reality. Do you know who pursued whom between Qin Chen and me? Lin Yu, thinking it obvious, began to respond. Of course it was you, Little Moo, cough cough, obviously. It was Qin Chen who pursued you. You're wealthy and humble, quite appealing in the alpha circle. Qin Chen only wooed you because you seemed like an easy target to marry. After Lin Yu departed, I pondered for a long while in the office, ultimately deciding to confront Qin Chen about divorce. I did not wish to subjugate myself beneath another alpha. I yearned to cherish a sweet and gentle omega, which is the inherent nature of all alphas. Upon returning home, I inquired with the servant. From them, I learned that Qin Chen was in the basement. The basement door was slightly ajar. I pushed it open to find Qin Chen. His breath was somewhat erratic, and during his sensitive period, he seemed to be suppressing a potent pheromone that threatened to engulf me. Is there something you need? I felt a pang of guilt as I lowered my eyes. Qin Chen, let us get a divorce. The imposing shadow of the alpha loomed over me, suffused with the emanating scent of alpha pheromones, silently observing me. I was oblivious to the sudden surge of alpha pheromones and earnestly reiterated, I am serious. I believe we are incompatible. After all, you do not like me. You refuse to utilize me during your heat or sensitivity periods. Furthermore, you are not to my taste. I believe an omega would suit me better. If you feel wronged, I am willing to compensate you for emotional damages. Name your price. My mouth was filled with the unfamiliar scent of alpha pheromones, and when I was forced to look up, I met his yearning gaze, alongside a specially designed bite inhibitor adorning his mouth, a silver chain dangling against his earlobe. Seeing you injured, I have endured you for long enough. I sensed a dangerous aura and instinctively wished to struggle. However, Qin Chen was able to hold my waist with one hand and said, Mu Xiaoxi, you claim to have amnesia and forgotten me, but have you also forgotten who seduced whom? Your body knows me better than you do. He almost pedagogically guided my fingers to his bite inhibitor, softly coaxing, Be good. Remove my bite inhibitor just as you once put it on me. I was entranced by his allure, my consciousness hazy, and I genuinely lifted my hand to help him take off the inhibitor. In the dimly lit basement, the pheromones enveloped me, leaving me drenched as if I had emerged from water. I had been submerged in these pheromones for a full week. When Qin-Chun and I returned home to see my Omega father, we coincidentally found my Alpha father there as well. He called me into the room. Mushi, have you discussed the matter of having children with Qin-Chun? What about having children? My heart jolted slightly. Noticing my confusion, my Alpha father frowned. Mushi, didn't you promise me earlier that you would talk to Qin-Chun about finding an Omega to have a child? I told you, you won't have a future with that Alpha officer. If he disagrees, you should divorce him. I think Lin Yu would be a good match. You two have grown up together, and your compatibility is a perfect 100. I'm sure he would be willing to have a child with you. I had no recollection of any such promise I had made previously. All I could do was force myself to respond. I haven't spoken to Qin-Chun yet. My Alpha father's expression darkened. You need to do it soon. Our Mu family has a great legacy, and you're our only Alpha son. No matter what, whether you discuss it with Qin-Chun or he disagrees, you must ensure that we have an heir. During the course of my marriage with Qin-Chun, I was to find an Omega and have another child. Even the most irresponsible Alpha would not act in such a manner. Yet, thinking of Qin-Chun still sitting outside, I could only respond with a heavy-hearted On the way home, my thoughts weighed heavily. Qin-Chun noticed my unease. What's wrong? I could only feign indifference, brushing it off with, it's nothing. Perhaps out of guilt, I avoided Qin-Chun for several consecutive days. Lin Yu, however, took the initiative to contact me. I waited for him at the bar, feeling perturbed. By the time he arrived, I had already downed several drinks alone. When Lin Yu came in, he nearly collapsed into my arms, tears streaming down his face. Little Mu, I'm not clean anymore. I inexplicably rolled around with someone, but they ran off, and I don't even know who it was. If I catch that scoundrel, I'll make him understand my wrath. His fervor was intense, and I hurriedly supported him. After a significant amount of time, I finally sorted through the chaotic events he described. So you couldn't get him back? Seeing Lin Yu nod tearfully, I glanced at his smooth neck and gently pressed down. Fortunately, he did not mark you. Upon hearing this, Lin Yu became even more agitated. Yes, it's worse. He slept with me but didn't mark me. He never intended to take responsibility. What else could that be but a scoundrel? The more he spoke, the angrier he became, raising his glass with gritted teeth. May all the scoundrels of the world meet a miserable end. I hope that scoundrel gets bitten by a dog, hit by a car, and best of all, encounters someone like Qin-Chun, whose pheromones are severely unstable, and spends his life with him. Under the influence of alcohol, I barely registered what he was saying. Not wanting to dampen his spirits, I raised my glass. All right, cheers, may your dreams come true. Both Lin Yu and I were lost in our own thoughts. He was consumed by thoughts of the irresponsible scoundrel from that night, while I was preoccupied with my own giant Alpha who couldn't father a child. Before long, after just a few more drinks, I was sprawled against Lin Yu. After several rounds of drinks, Lin Yu, with a flushed face, nestled into my embrace. Little Mu, I feel so uncomfortable. Could you kiss me? The pheromones of the Omega surged in the air like wildfire. My expression changed. Lin Yu was in his heat. An unmarked Omega in heat at a bar. What that implied was all too clear to me. Every Alpha in the bar became alert, glancing our way, hastily releasing their pheromones, creating an unspoken competition in the air. Lin Yu seemed to sense the looming danger, proactively exposing his sweet, unmarked glands to me. Little Mu, I really feel awful. Please give me a temporary mark, just one. Okay? An Omega with a compatibility of 100 in heat before an Alpha, no matter how resolute an Alpha might be, they would be overwhelmed, succumbing to the instinct to mark during a sensitive period. I lowered my head and bit down, infusing my pheromones into Lin Yu's glands. Lin Yu braced himself with his hands on my neck. Little Mu, please mark me permanently. I really can't take it anymore. I grasped the buttons of my shirt, attempting to restrain the restless Omega in my arms. Wait, don't. I can't. Just then, the bar's door was kicked open. A tall figure appeared in the doorway, exuding a particularly oppressive aura. Qin-Chun strode in, lifting the Omega from my arms, his gaze lingering for merely a moment on the mark on Lin Yu's neck before he tossed him into the hands of a servant. Leaning forward, he spoke into his earpiece in a calm yet commanding tone. Major Wei, I've thrown your Omega out. Come and collect him yourself. A gentle but authoritative voice came through the earpiece. Thank you for your trouble. Since Qin Chen's arrival, I had been frightened awake to a large extent. As Lin Yu was taken away, feeling the chill of impending loss, I pretended to be dazed and wrapped my arms around Qin Chen's neck, kissing him. Darling, kiss me. Yet, Qin Chen merely looked down at me with a frosty gaze, showing no intention of letting me off the hook. Who am I? Who is your husband? Qin Chen removed his earpiece and tossed it onto the sofa. Then, extending his long fingers to my chin, he tilted my head up to meet his gaze. With his other hand, he shook a bottle of alcohol and poured it directly into my mouth. Do you see clearly now? Who am I? The bar was filled with vibrant lights. I hazily lifted my eyes to him. You are Qin Chen. The chill surrounding him dissipated somewhat with my words. Yet he maintained a stern expression, looking at me coldly. Do you have a fondness for omegas? Are omegas truly so desirable? Or do you find it pleasing to be governed by pheromones? I involuntarily retorted, I am an alpha. It is instinctual to desire to mark an omega. The moment those words escaped my lips, I regretted them upon seeing the sudden darkening of Qin Chen's eyes. No matter what, he was my beloved. I should not have uttered something to hurt him. That's not what I meant. Qin Chen ignored my plea and simply patted my waist. Didn't you just get induced into a sensitive period? Realizing what he intended, I immediately began to struggle violently. That's not possible. That area is regressed. Qin Chen merely lowered his voice, tightly gripping my waist. As I trembled intensely, he offered a token gesture of comfort. Even if it's regressed, it's still possible. You are exceptionally gifted. Exceptionally gifted, my foot. His crude words were rather clumsy. Isn't it outdated to use such encouragement tactics to woo an omega? The night is still young, destined for sleeplessness. On this very night, I stumbled upon two undeniable truths. One, Qin Chen is a dog even more devoted than I. The other truth is that I am indeed exceptionally gifted. As I rubbed my aching lower back and approached the door, a striking young omega stood outside, luggage in hand. Hello, Mr. Mu. I am the omega you requested, she greeted. With a swift motion, I slammed the door shut. Yet Qin Chen, who was coincidentally descending the stairs, caught sight of the scene. I hastily exclaimed, my father sent for her. I did not. Qin Chen simply opened the door, surveying the beautiful omega outside, before calmly stating, come in. I quickly attempted to explain to Qin Chen, it must be my father's doing. You know he has always wished for me to have an omega to bear a child, but I have never contemplated such a thing. Qin Chen remained silent. The young omega glanced between me and Qin Chen. But Mr. Mu, wasn't it you who summoned me? 3 months ago, you personally approached the director, requesting a 15-year-old omega. I have your signature from that time. My heart sank. A shock coursed through me at the mention of 3 months prior. What had my biological father been up to? Qin Chen regarded me with a steady gaze and quietly remarked, a 15-year-old omega possesses strong reproductive capabilities, but this is against the law. If you seek an omega, I suggest you consider. I immediately shook my head, reaching for his hand. I do not wish for that. Qin Chen lowered his voice, gently asking me, but I could sense the towering figure before me slowly crumbling. If you desire a child, why not confide in me? His disappointment was palpable as he averted his gaze, gradually prying my fingers apart. Forget it, you know nothing of the world yet. Perhaps we both need to take a step back. He exited, driving away without a backward glance. I attempted to pursue him by car, but in my haste, I collided with a roadside barrier, the violent impact sending me into darkness. Yet, within that abyss, fragments of memories began to resurface. At 18, I concluded a brief stint in the military. On the eve of my departure, I had chased after the instructor who had shown me particular care during my service, declaring my feelings. Instructor, I like you. Do you like me? The imposing man halted, his voice softening. No one would like me. My glands have been damaged, determining that my compatibility with any omega would be low. My sensitivity period is more challenging than that of an average alpha. You are an alpha as well. A lack of compatibility would only bring you pain. Moreover, the attraction of O2A is instinctual. I advise you to tread carefully. In defiance, I leaned in, kissing his lips, and instinctively, his hands found my waist. A flicker of a smile gracing his lips as he listened to my animated chatter. Indeed, the pain is unbearable. How could a delicate omega withstand it? Thus, it must be me, the exceptionally gifted alpha, to step forth. Officer Chin, you can trust that there exists someone who will transcend instinct to love you. The attraction of O to A is instinctual, but my affection for you is also instinct. Perhaps loving you is my inherent nature. Scenes from the past flickered through my mind like a film reel, including moments spent in Chin Chen's embrace as he fitted a rather uncomfortable bite guard onto his own mouth, a result of my excessive whining 2 nights prior. Did you not claim to be exceptionally gifted? Why then do you appear more delicate than an omega? I rolled my eyes in his embrace. Yet you still indulge me. Besides, how else could I have deceived you into returning from the clutches of the state? When I finally opened my eyes, I found myself in a hospital room once more. Unsurprisingly, it was Chin Chun who had brought me there, and he had also settled the bill. The accident was not as severe as the last. It merely aggravated an old injury, necessitating further observation. However, this time, Chin Chun did not stay by my side, opting instead to hire a few nurses to attend to me. Upon returning home, I discovered Chin Chun packing his belongings, preparing to leave. I rushed to stop him. Chin Chun, what are you doing? He handed his luggage to an instructor standing nearby, and only then did I realize there was another person in the room. I will be training with the troops for a while. Seeing Chin Chen's expression, I sensed I was about to lose him. Chin Chun, you cannot go. I have recalled everything. The child is not the omega I intended to bring in for surrogacy. He is the child I applied to adopt from the orphanage. They mistakenly matched me with a 15-year-old when I sought a 5-year-old little omega. He was meant to be our child. Chin Chun, I merely suffered from amnesia. My love for you has not waned. I do not want a divorce, nor do I wish to separate. Do you understand? Chin Chun paused, handing me a cup from the table. Would you like some water? I remained silent. He observed me, noting my lack of response, and sighed softly. I will be away for 3 months. It may grant you the clarity you need. Perhaps you do not care for me as much as you think. You have a point. You may require an omega more than an unstable alpha like me. Without hesitation, I grasped his hand. I will not consider it. I want you. How could I bear to relinquish the precious state benefit I had finally secured? I assertively pushed him back, kissing him fervently while guiding him toward the bed. Chin Chun furrowed his brow, his gaze dropping, yet he did not resist. What do you intend to do? I met his gaze defiantly, declaring, I intend to dominate you. A sudden, violent cough interrupted, snapping me back to reality as I remembered the instructor still lingered in the corner, raising his hand in a silent gesture. I'm still here. Am I a bit superfluous? My enthusiasm waned, and I replied coolly, understood. Why are you not leaving? The instructor hesitated, but Chin Chun. This time it was not just me. Even Chin Chun frowned disapprovingly at him. The instructor, startled, quickly summarized. I merely wish to convey that Officer Chin is a distinguished figure in our nation. Mr. Mu, please be cautious. Do not harm him. It would complicate matters. Before he could finish, the instructor fled as if propelled by the wind. The room fell silent, leaving only Chin Chun and me. He allowed my actions to unfold. Yet my stomach began to churn unexpectedly. Are you feeling unwell? Chin Chun inquired, reaching out to assist me, only to be firmly pushed away. I clamped his wrists, forcing him to observe his strong limbs bound to the cold iron chains at the head of the bed, chains that had seemingly appeared from nowhere. Chin Chun paused. When did you acquire these? I lowered my gaze, a sly smile gracing my lips as I enunciated. I purchased them long ago, and I have long desired to do this. I tapped his forehead playfully. You are an alpha and so am I. Why should you deny me the pleasure? Chin Chen's gaze deepened gradually. The mere hint of redness in his eyes was enough to stir one's heart. How do you wish to play? One could not deny that Chin Chen, when positioned beneath, was undeniably more alluring than when he was above, his well-defined physique and long limbs captivating. Yet, as I pondered this, discomfort surged within my stomach once more. While I was retching up clear liquid, my thoughts were still preoccupied with attacking him. Chin Chun lowered his gaze, allowing my movements, yet could not restrain himself from inquiring, Are you feeling unwell? I fought through the discomfort in my stomach, determined to press on with my advance. I'm fine, Just as I rallied for a counterattack, my hands could only clutch the bed sheets, my stomach churning violently. Alas, even in my distress, I could only expel a couple of mouthfuls of clear liquid. Was it truly a case of having upset my stomach? Why today of all days? Was I so unfortunate? Chin Chun hesitantly spoke, If you really can't go on, we can postpone. With my trousers already discarded, what was there to postpone? I indignantly pressed my finger against his lips. I can? Ugh! The discomfort was unbearable. I clumsily scrambled down from him, clutching the trash can, and began to retch again. With a sudden crack, Chin-chun broke free from the restraints on his wrists and effortlessly lifted me up, his firm abdomen pressed against my waist. To the hospital. After examining the images, the gastroenterologist suggested we transfer to obstetrics. The doctor at the hospital handed me the report. Congratulations, Mr. Mu, you are pregnant. Chin-chen's eyes widened in surprise, then his lips involuntarily curled into a joyous smile. However, upon noticing my lack of reaction, his expression turned serious again. I clutched the report in my trembling fingers. Felt surreal. There was a tiny, fragile heartbeat, yet it was undeniably a living being. A child that was the flesh and blood of both Chin-chan and me. A child I had never dared to dream of. But I'm an alpha? The doctor, clearly accustomed to encountering pregnant alphas, understood my concerns. The chance of pregnancy between alphas is indeed low, but it is not impossible. Although the reproductive systems of alphas are degenerated, as long as another alpha is sufficiently strong, conception can occur. The only complication arises during childbirth, as alphas lack a birth canal and would require a cesarean section. However, current surgical techniques for childbirth are quite advanced, so Mr. Mu need not worry excessively. I glanced at Chin-chun beside me, feeling somewhat lost. I want this child. Chin-chun chuckled softly, rubbing my abdomen. Yes, I want it too. He followed the doctor to receive guidance for new fathers, leaving me in the ward to share the good news with my Omega father over the phone. You don't even need an Omega. Your son can give birth on his own. But on the other end, my alpha father erupted with rage. Mushi, are you foolish? Letting another alpha enter your reproductive cavity will be excruciating. And to have him bear a child? You'll end up being sold and counted like a commodity. I paid no heed to his words. This only proves my exceptional talent. I'm happy about it. You wish to conceive but cannot. My alpha father's temper flared even more. Mu Xiaoxi, I will give birth to you. When Chin-chun returned, he found me engaged in a friendly exchange with my alpha father, who was still venting his fury. Mu Xiaoxi, don't you dare hang up. Have Chin-chun speak to me. I quickly handed the phone to Chin-chin. Don't hang up, here's Chin-chin. Chin-chin calmly took the call, his mood evidently high. Grandfather of the child? On the other end, Chin-chun, you? He hung up the phone and turned to me earnestly. The doctor advised against letting the child hear foul language during the prenatal period. I nodded in agreement as there seemed to be some merit to that notion. I watched as Chin-chin smiled and knelt down. Are you really considering having a child? Aren't you afraid of the pain? Outside, the spring sunlight was splendid. I tilted my head. I have a brave spirit, you know? I fear nothing in this world. Chin-chin raised an eyebrow. Is that so? But I've heard that after giving birth, one must also nurse. I quickly covered his lips, but was just a moment too late. You mustn't say that. How embarrassing. I might as well die. Chin-chun took my hand and placed it against his cheek, nuzzling against it. There's no shame in this. I will accompany you through it all. For the rest of our lives, I will always be by your side. In this world, nothing can sever the bond of attraction between A and O pheromones, unless, of course, loving you is also my instinct. The end. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this, please consider subscribing and liking to support. Until we meet again in the next story.